Tell me why you're here.
So I'm here because this is so important, and Michigan is going to be central to the outcome of the election. We've got the most important presidential election of our lifetimes. I believe it's very important that we return Gary Peters to the U.S. Senate. We got John Hoadley running for House here. So many important races going on. And look, Michigan voters could have the future of the country in their hands. And it's important to me to explain why I'm backing the Biden-Harris ticket and candidates up and down the ballot. And as you know, it's not even about an election day coming up. It's about a voting season underway. So I want to make sure we get the word out about early voting options too, so people can find a safe way to vote that makes sense for them.
Now, right now, COVID-19 cases here in Michigan are skyrocketing. We had our highest caseload the other day in a single day. Now, what can you tell us about what the Biden-Harris ticket strategy for combating COVID-19 is?
Well, a future President Biden would not settle for what we have now, which is objectively the worst COVID outcomes of any country in the developed world. He has a plan. He's ready to make sure that a vaccine is distributed, but until we have that vaccine, that we rely on testing and a comprehensive plan where you're actually going to see the president reinforcing what doctors and governors and mayors are trying to do and say, instead of contradicting them. The current president attacked people for wearing a mask. He's attacking Dr. Fauci. It is a totally politicized approach, and obviously it's failed because, again, by the numbers, we are doing the worst in the developed world. It's not good enough. It will change under Joe Biden.
Did you see the president's comments about Fauci today?
I saw that there was a tweet that unfortunately is par for the course. The president of the United States should be backing up the leadership of our public health agencies that are saving lives, not tweeting bizarre random things about baseball while attacking public health officials. This is the kind of amateur hour performance that has helped explain why the U.S. is doing so much worse than other countries right now.
Now, we do have a Supreme Court nomination on the table from Notre Dame, which has personal ties there. Can you just give me your thoughts on this whole situation right now?
Well, I'm with the majority of Americans who believe it's the winner of this presidential election who should choose the next Supreme Court justice. And look, this is personal. This is not about obscure academic points of law. This is about whether we get to keep our health care. That's a case coming before the Supreme Court in a matter of weeks. It's about whether folks like me get to stay married. I mean, this is really personal, serious, and important stuff that's coming before the court. And again, like most Americans, I think the people ought to have a say.
Now, one of those comments or one of those topics that have been coming up recently is packing the court. Now, we haven't heard specifically from Biden on whether he will commit to or commit to not doing that. Have you heard anything from him about that?
So I've seen what he said publicly, and I think he's trying to make sure that the other side is not successful in changing the subject, because we've got an immediate issue in front of us right now where healthcare and so many other issues are at stake. And we've got to stay focused on that. We can debate structural issues in the future. I hope we do. But right now we've got an election on our hands. We've got a nomination on our hands, and we need the Senate GOP to start listening to the people.
Now, if the Republican-led Senate confirms ACB and Biden becomes president, would you support adding justices to the Supreme Court?
Well, everything has to be on the table when it comes to making sure we have a less politicized Supreme Court. But again, my hope is that the voices of the people are actually heard right now in this process and on this path.
Now, what are some of those differences we'd see in foreign policy in a Biden administration versus a Trump administration?
Well, first of all, you'd see a focus on actually building up our relationships and our alliances. You know, when I was deployed overseas, I saw firsthand how our alliances are part of what keeps us safe. They're part of what protects America. And we got a president incapable of getting along with our allies, let alone negotiating effectively with our adversaries. That has a real cost. The other thing that you won't see is a continuation of the way President Trump has been repeatedly played and fooled by China. Just to give you one example, when China was deceiving the world about coronavirus, you can look this up, President Trump praised Xi Jinping for his transparency. If it's that easy to manipulate the President of the United States, American security suffers. It's going to be different under Joe Biden.
Now, we're having a war of words between the governor here and President Trump, especially regarding the alleged plot to kidnap her. And she says that a lot of the president's rhetoric could do with this. The president is obviously fighting back on that. When you see things like this happening in our political atmosphere, what do you think?
I think this is not normal, this is not okay, and this is a feature of what it's like to live during the Trump administration. One more reason we've got to move on from this chaos. And I think most of us can come together around this. You don't have to be a Democrat to think that there's something deeply disturbing about an extremist terrorist plot against a Midwestern governor actually being in some ways encouraged by the President of the United States. That's not normal, Republican or Democrat, and it's got to end.
Now, what have you learned from voters here in Michigan today?
Well, what I'm seeing is a real focus on folks' everyday lives. Voters are concerned with whether they're going to be able to get health care, whether the economy is going to improve, what it's going to take to get us through this pandemic so that we can be back in school, back to work on a normal basis. All of that means a change in leadership, and that's part of why this election is so critically important.
Give me your 15-second pitch to swing voters.
Well, it's this, our future is on the line. We got a president who just doesn't care about us, and we can do better. You may not agree with Joe Biden on absolutely everything, but you're going to have in the Oval Office a decent person who cares about us, who's going to guide us forward, and whose first instinct when he gets up in the morning is to bring people together, not to divide.
And then my last question here is just exactly how important is ensuring voter turnout this time around? I mean, we're in a state that went red by 10,000 votes 4 years ago.
It's absolutely critical. There are some people deciding how they're going to vote. There are some people deciding whether they're going to vote. And if there was ever a time in your entire life to vote, it's now. It's easier than ever to find information about whether you're registered to vote early, and we hope people do vote early, avoid the lines, and it's a great way to get ahead of these things. But look, it's never mattered more. And every one of us has different reasons why it's personal. Mine have to do with healthcare and a lot of other things. But this is no time to be on the sidelines.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.